You're listening to The Tales We Tell, a podcast about spooky stories, unsolved mysteries, and local lore. I'm your host, Hannah Parch.
And I'm Katy.
Welcome back to
Thank you. It's nice to be back.
I'm glad.
But also, I wish I was still at the Papa.
Yeah, understandable. Well, I brought you into a whole brand new redesigned studio.
Yeah. It was weird when you were saying the intro. I normally will look in that same direction as I did, but the things I normally stare at aren't there anymore.
Aren't there? Yep.
And also, you're not in the corner of my eye over there, so I didn't feel like I needed to close my eyes, which I normally do.
Yeah, and I'm staring at a completely different view. I'm already upset that I can't look at the boys behind you. I'm just gonna have to get small ones.
Well, welcome to my world. Maybe we can just set a mirror there in front of us.
There you go. And then we could look at each other in the mirror.
Yeah, because turning's a little
weird, but okay. So for context, everyone, Katy and I used to sit across from each other, and then this weekend I acquired a bunch of furniture that I don't have room for from my grandma's house, but it's beautiful. And one was a giant hutch that, on the record, I did not say,
it's like a dining room, sideboard. So, you know, kind of like a chest of drawers with a nice, open surface for putting things, and then top shelves and drawers. So, perfect for just, keeping all your china and, dining room stuff.
It would be great if we had china to store.
But you also don't really have much of a dining room for that anyway.
That's true.
So
I did acquire a bunch of plates, though, a set. But I did not go into this house saying, I want the hutch. I said, I want the old TV. I want the old couch, which we did get. It's in the garage, and it's going to be professionally cleaned on Friday. And Jarek won't let it in the house until it's been cleaned.
Fair.
And I wanted a vanity, but when Jarek saw this and was like, we're taking this. I have to have this. We need it. I forewent the vanity because we only had a single pickup truck to fit furniture in, and that was the limit. And to his credit, these are $6,000 pieces of furniture that you see at antique stores, and we got it for free. So,
oh yeah, it's great. It has so much storage. Sure, it takes up a good bit of space, but it's got a lot of storage for all sorts of small things that maybe don't have a home.
Yes, I love that. Anyways, but to do that, we got rid of one of my craft tables, and put it in the garage. We moved my sewing table to the corner, and then Jarek was really worried that it was going to be too near, I don't know, I guess just too crowded the way our chairs were.
Yeah.
So we are now sitting next to each other, and it's not weird at all.
Yep.
So, anyway, I have a spooky story to share. Not the actual story.
Go for it, and then I'll come in with my funny story.
Okay.
Which is, I guess, in a way, also a little spooky, but you go first.
Yeah, mine is also humorous. So we were down at my grandma's house, which is this beautiful 1950s home in the middle of nowhere. Both my grandparents lived there until they died. So they lived there
in the home.
My grandfather did die in the home. And one of
that's the dream, right?
Yeah, he died in his sleep.
Yeah, that is the dream.
Yes.
Old, in your own home, in your sleep,
next to your
no suffering.
Yeah, next to the love of your life.
Yep.
Exactly. Nightmare for my grandma, but whatever.
Well, I mean, hopefully he was old and they kind of knew it was coming. Not knew it was coming, but
yeah. But my grandma, while she was still alive, would always say that she saw him or talked to him, and she also probably had some dementia. But
by that time, she's in the middle of nowhere, living alone, in a house full of memories. You're gonna see ghosts.
Yeah. So I've always thought that at least he's still in the house. And our friends who came to help us move, Morgan and RJ, they brought their daughter Alice, who is 2.5, sweetest child in the world. And she got there, and she knows. I said sweetest. little girl in the world. How
there
about that?
we go. Because the last time you praised her, you were sure to clarify that she's the sweetest little girl.
Yes. But she knows Jarek and me now, so, like, she's very happy to see us, and, like...
Walker was asking about you while we were at the cabin.
Oh. Sorry.
Just so you know.
Oh, gosh. Well, anyways, so Alice was great, but she randomly burst into tears several times while she was in that home. Like, she would just be standing there, everything would be fine. All of a sudden, she'd just start crying.
I mean, that's also a sign of a 2.5-year-old, but...
True. But Morgan was like, what is wrong? Like, I don't know what's happening. And then there was a time when we were downstairs and she went around the corner into the kitchen and goes, oh, hi. And then just, like, carries on. Like, didn't want to, I don't know. I'm convinced she was just seeing, I hope, just my granddaddy around the house. But something was freaking her out while we were there. So...
I mean, kids are more sensitive to, like, energies and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, they're also still, like, at that age, like, they're still trying to understand the world around them.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, by that age, they've got a much better handle on things than, like, I don't know, a 7-month-old or something. Yeah. And it's probably, you know, this is a new, unfamiliar place. Mm-hmm. And, like, she's still just trying to understand, like, what's going on? Where am I? What am I doing here? Like,
yeah, and she would be totally fine, like, the rest of the time. Like, she was asking to go back up the stairs. She'd go, one more time, one more time. And just going up the stairs and coming back down. And
do they have stairs in their house at home?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, well, no, they don't.
Yeah, so it's a novel thing, and
yeah,
toddlers like to do something over and over and over again, basically until they master it.
Nice. Smart. Mm-hmm. And then I told Katie I brought back 2 pictures that I'm positive are haunted / mad at me for removing them from the home. And I asked my aunt.
It's just going to be an adjustment period.
Yeah. I mean, I'm fully expecting one of them to fall off that hutch at some point.
I mean, all right, if they're, like, actually mad, you know, spirits of the pictures, just knock over one of those candlesticks that's up top.
Yeah.
And then we'll know that you're unhappy. And we'll do something about it. We'll figure it out.
We'll have
a little seance.
Yeah. I just want you to know that I only brought you home because I think you would have gotten thrown away.
Yeah. You might be unhappy with your new digs, but way better than the dump.
That's true. And I asked my aunt, I was like, who are these people? Because their pictures were always in the house. And I just assumed, like, the way they were like up on the mantle, centered around, like, between this, or there's this clock between, like, looked very official, like, looked like it was like, this is the matriarch and patriarch of the family. Mm-hmm. My aunt was like, I have no idea who those people are. I don't even know if your grandma knew who they were when she got the pictures. She's like, she got it from
Wouldn't
someone
it
in the
be funny
family.
If she, like, saved them from, like, a thrift store or something and just
oh my
thought
gosh,
they looked cool?
If it was just me in 75 years with all of the pictures I have of people I don't know.
Yeah.
Which my therapist was not too pleased about when I told her that, but... Anyways, that was my haunted story. Spooky story.
All right. So mine's mostly funny and impressive, but, like, a little spooky because my, newly minted 2-year-old, so he's only, like,
2 in a couple months.
Yeah. 2 and some change.
Yeah.
So we got him that alphabet puzzle. We were at Walmart and he saw, a couple of, like a bus or a car or something that, like, lights and sounds and buttons, and I'm like, No. And Shelton's like, all right, I'll appease him. And, like, he saw these, like, small, like, steamroller or bulldozer, kind of like a rattle toy. So, like, it made noise, but it wasn't, like, battery operated noise. And I was like, if you want to get him that, like, that's fine. We can throw it in the diaper bag kind of toy. And thankfully Walker kind of, was like, yeah, this is interesting, and then put it back on the shelf. And I was like, awesome, let's just keep moving. For some reason, I decided to go down the aisle, and I was like, you can get him that if you want, but I'm getting him this for sure. And it's just a little wooden alphabet puzzle. And so glad I did, because we got home, and he definitely wanted to play with it.
Yeah.
And after playing with it a couple of times, and, like, us being like, oh, that's, that's the A, that's the G, that's the T, he really started to get a handle on the letters. And like you pointed out, there's that one video, he was like, he picked up the H, and we're like, oh, that's the H. And he was kind of looking to try and find where it went, And Shelton goes, it's next to the I, which he had already placed in the puzzle. And it took a fraction of a second for it to click and be like, oh, there's the I. Put it right in its spot. Well, he took it a step further the other night.
Okay.
So my mother-in-law came up for a night or two to visit and hang out, and we were sitting out on the back porch because it was a gorgeous night, amazing weather, eating dinner. And of course, he's a toddler, so he doesn't sit at the table for very long. He'll come and sit and take a couple bites, and then he runs off. And so the night before, his thing was going to get his little blocks one at a time and bringing them and lining them up and then stacking them. That night, he went in and brought a letter from his puzzle out. And we're like, oh, the X, thank you. And after, 2 or 3, I was like, Walker, can you go get the R? And he would nod his head real emphatically like, yep, I can do that. Run inside. A minute later, he'd come running back outside, and he handed me the R.
Wow.
And a conservative guess is that his accuracy rating for the rest of the alphabet is probably about 85%.
Wow.
There was probably only maybe 3 that I asked for, and he brought me a different letter.
Smart boy.
But it's kind of spooky because
unless there might be a ghost in there helping him out.
When I looked it up, I was like, is this impressive, or is this the age when kids can start learning the alphabet? And they're like, Google said, just a cursory glance, that kids, it's by the age of 3, kids might have some recognition of about half of the alphabet. They might know half of the letters.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, so he's got most of the letters a year early. Okay, sure. Okay.
That's one of those things where it's this is a good thing, but I'm suspicious about it, so I'm not going to be, I can't be fully happy.
Yeah, because, when putting in the puzzle, sure, he might have a little bit of recognition of what the letters are and where they go, and it might just be memorizing the order, but, it's mostly, shape recognition. He recognizes the shape of the A and the A hole. Right. A hole.
Better than the B-hole.
They're the same thing.
I know, but B-hole sounds so much worse. It's like how there's worse names for poop. I'm not going to say the one that I hate the most.
Does it start with a T? Because that's the one I hate.
My
one's just grody and cringy word.
The initials for the clinical term. I hate it. My mom called them that growing up. I don't know why. It's just the grossest thing to me.
Oh, I was thinking the one with the F. Fecal matter.
Oh, no. It's the initials for a bowel movement, which bowel movement doesn't sound gross to me.
Doesn't bother you.
I can't even. My sister and I were texting about it because I had a poop question for her. It's really nice having her as a medical person, because I can be like, gross medical question for you.
Those are very convenient people to have in your life.
They are. Yep. So. And Shelton's my go-to for for medicine questions. And then if it's a really embarrassing question, I'll usually ask my sister. If it's less embarrassing, I'll ask my mom. And I don't know why.
Just depends on what it is.
My mom has seen more.
She's literally wiped the BMs off your butt.
Gross. So disgusting.
So, I mean, I don't know how much of it was just, it was because all the letters were there. He wasn't pulling them out of the puzzle. All the letters were on the side of the puzzle, just in a random order. And I'd also taken a couple of them and put them on the windowsill, because my plan was after dinner, when we were hanging out, I'd be like, I'd point to just 3 letters, and be like, can you get me the Y? And so I'd have only 3 options.
Yeah.
So he had a 33% chance of getting it right.
Yeah. Of course.
But when he started bringing the letters and I started asking for them, and I was like, okay, well, I know that the R and the Y are on the windowsill. So I specifically told him, I was like, can you bring me the R? It's by the window. And he knew where I was talking about.
Oh, dang, look at my mom. Sorry, my mom also got fun stuff from the house, and she's sending me pictures of what. It won't mean anything because it just looks different than what it used to. I realized that I forgot a prop that I was gonna use, and I'm scared to mess my mic up again, so I'm gonna text Jarek and see if he can get it for me. Our story starts August of 1923.
Ooh.
Anytime I start with a date, I want to scream it the way they do in the dollop.
You want to pull a Dave Anthony.
1923! We're in Missouri. Just some random nondescript part. And a man named Adam rarely hears his pigs squealing in distress. Like something is wrong.
They're not squealing, they're screaming.
They're screaming, yes.
So have I told you about when I would be out sampling near hog farms?
Uh-huh.
And it was moving day for the pigs. So like when they would be like loading them up or unloading them.
Oh, like for slaughter?
Or just to move to the next facility.
Okay.
Because there's different types of facilities. Some are like feeder to finish.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the ones where they just there to eat until they die.
I hate that.
But, you know, some are like a farrow to feeder and like, you know, birth to wean or whatever. Different types.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, they all get loaded up into trucks to be relocated to somewhere,
Gotcha.
whether it's another facility or the slaughterhouse.
Right.
But their lives are so awful. And, you know, just like it's the herd mentality too.
Yeah.
So like even if they did have a nice life, like animals are just kind of normally skittish because you know, survival instincts, I guess, whatever. Anyway, there'd be multiple times that I'm out and like I can hear a truck backing up and then I hear, you know, some commotion and then I hear the pigs screaming. Like you can hear the terror and fear in their squeals and their cries and you're like, they're not just because every now and then like I'd hear them talking and like sometimes I'd hear some squealing like, you know, maybe someone was walking through the pens and checking on them and they were just, you know, hey, what are you doing in here?
Yeah.
You know, just chatting.
Yeah.
There was a difference.
Oh, I hate that.
You can hear it. It makes me think of Silence of the Lambs. They were screaming.
Can you hear them? The screams. Oh wait, the lambs. Okay, well, everyone picture that horrible scene Katie just gave us.
Let me paint you a word.
Well, Adam goes out to his pigs and he finds that there's a dog that has gotten into the pen, which is why they're freaking out.
Mm-hmm.
So
that would do it, I think.
Yeah. So he fights the dog off, but the dog bites him in the leg.
Is this a werewolf story?
No. Sorry. That'd be great if it was. I've looked and I feel like we did the most interesting werewolf stories. There's only like 2, in my opinion, and I think we covered both of them.
The Beast of Gévaudan was the one I remember the most.
That one was good. And then there's the werewolf.
Especially since it was mentioned in another book that I read.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
Mm-hmm. I sent you like a screenshot of like a paragraph about it.
I think the other one was the Werewolf of Bedburg.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like there's another one. I might have just
There's a third one, I think.
Did we do one on just werewolves?
No. Those were definitely 2 episodes. And I think the other werewolf was kind of like the vampire of... Was it Dusseldorf?
That sounds right.
Where he thought he was a vampire.
Yes.
Like the guy who had to drink blood because he thought if he didn't, his was going to turn into a powder or something.
Turn into powder, yeah.
So I think it was kind of werewolfy, but it was more he thought. Basically, we did a story on a very mentally ill person.
Yes. I think I know what you're talking about.
We've done 1 or 2 episodes on mentally ill people.
Yeah, only a couple.
It's not like it's our thing.
Well, this I think you could kind of say
is another mentally ill. Story?
This is werewolf adjacent.
Okay.
I'll say.
Okay. So he got bit in trying to chase the dog off from his pigs.
I won't tell you what happened to the dog. But just know Adam got bitten by it and wasn't happy about it. So neighbors come over because they go like, we heard some pigs screaming. Like, what's that? What's going on? They kind of see the whole thing and they're like, Adam, that dog was rabid. So you need to, you have rabies.
Yeah. Seek medical attention immediately.
Yes. And what they probably said was that dog was mad. Because that's what they would call them.
That's why Mad Dog was a nickname. Is it Mad Dog also like a beer or a...
I think so.
Not a beer, but like a malt liquor.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say,
yeah, I think the term
Mad Dog sounds familiar. Well, Adam kind of freaks out a little, so he gets on his horse and he rides to the town of Buffalo, Missouri, I guess, which is about 25 miles away. And he goes to see Reverend William Newton Sutton.
Ah, yes. Pray the rabies away.
And I guess he's not a doctor. He's just a reverend. So Reverend Sutton is like, oh, don't worry. Come in here.
God will save you.
Sit down. Elevate your leg. Which I don't know if that's good to do if you have a poison in you.
Any kind of poison. Like, an open wound, yes.
Yeah.
Elevate it so you won't have gravity working with your normal heartbeat.
Yes.
But also, if you've got a snake bite, do not elevate it. Because do not get it anywhere closer to your heart.
Gravity's helping it get to the... Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, he elevates the leg, and then he's like, hey, son of mine who's also here, go get some fresh milk from the cows. So he did, and he boiled the milk, and then he retrieved a small, quote, small grayish-white stone. And here's your prop. It's a small stone.
All right.
It's black, but I didn't have a gray one.
That's fine. Should have told me. I've got lots up at the
right?
path.
I was going to give you a purple one, but I was like...
Purple's my favorite color.
I know. I've got a couple purple ones.
I probably wouldn't be able to see purple in this light anyway.
It's true. It's dark purple. So he gets his small stone. He soaks it. He does not smoke it. He soaks it.
If he's smoking rocks, he's definitely doing serious drugs.
Yes.
Smoking crack.
Well, he soaks it in the milk, the boiled milk. And then he places the stone on Adam's wound. And when he brings his hand away, the rock stuck to the wound or the stone, whatever. Mm-hmm. After 6 hours, the stone fell off. And so Reverend Sutton washed it and put it back in milk and began to boil the milk. And as he did, green scum began to rise to the surface. And he told Adam that is the poison that the rock absorbed. Sorry, the stone absorbed.
The stone absorbed the poison.
Yeah, and now it's, coming to the surface.
Leaching
it's
out. So we can reuse this sponge stone.
Yes. So he does that. He puts the stone back on the wound. This time it stuck for 2 hours before falling off. He repeated that process 2 more times. So the third time the stone stuck for 45 minutes. And then the fourth time the stone didn't stick at all. And the Reverend said,
suck out.
You're healed. No rabies for you. We got it. We got all the rabies out.
So maybe he is a doctor. Doesn't sound like a doctor.
No. But the stone that he used was known as a mad stone. And this was weirdly a very popular method of curing rabies, but before a certain time.
Medicine? And before actual science and medicine?
Yes.
Well, I mean, there was a time that leeches were a thing.
That's true.
So,
well, they were actually, I guess not in all cases. I was like, bloodletting is a thing, right?
It's not really. Okay. Not anymore.
Well, yeah, but
like once upon a time, absolutely. People
was
like,
it
especially
helpful,
with like typhoid. They would like slit wrists and do bloodletting. Not
the place I would be getting the blood.
They go across the street, not down the road.
Well, but still, let's maybe
just small. I don't know.
Just do it on like the upper arm. Get away from those arteries,
dude. I don't know.
Well,
yeah, upper arm is even closer to the heart, where there's more blood pressure.
Okay, whatever. I'm saying get away from arteries. Do it on your foot.
Doctors who listen and obviously have had to study like medical history, can you send us some actual info on bloodletting?
Yeah.
Because it's so funny to hear, like to look at historical medical practices like bloodletting, like leeches, like the mad stone, and see how close they were to being onto something. Like, yeah, like the logic, like we see your logic there. And, like, we see why your brain went to that, because you don't know all this other stuff.
Yeah.
You're very wrong.
I just saw something out of the corner of my eye. I don't love this. I don't. Yeah, I feel like this is an episode of Sawbones. I'm sure Sawbones did something on bloodletting. I'll let you know. I'll listen and then come back to that.
The one with Aaron Mahnke, Lore.
Mm-hmm.
I think in one of his very first episodes, like with the vampires, which aren't real vampires, it's just people died in the winter, and so it looked like their remains were preserved because they were frozen. That's an instance where bloodletting actually, I think, was a practice in the treatment, but she died anyway.
Yes.
Probably because she was, low on blood, and her body was having a hard time fighting off a disease while also trying to replenish her blood supply.
Maybe needed a blood transfusion.
To bring,
You just needed the opposite of
healthy, oxygenated blood, too.
Oh my gosh. Well, madstones, in addition to curing rabies, sometimes were known to be used for snake bites and blood poisoning. Just any kind of...
It's basically put the rock on the open wound and it'll
suck out the bad stuff.
Whatever poison, infection, whatever.
Yeah. And this was practiced in Missouri, Illinois, Kentucky, Tennessee, North Carolina, Mississippi, Arkansas, Texas, and Kansas. So just...
And were priests the only one, or preachers or whoever, the only ones that knew how to do this? Or was this actual doctors did this too?
This was anyone who had a madstone, which were like rare. We'll get into that.
Okay, I was going to ask, as my geology brain wants to know, what type of rock are they using?
Don't worry, we'll get into that.
All right, cool.
To just as an example to show you how popular this was, or how like legitimate of a medical practice this appeared to be. In 1852, President Lincoln took his son Robert from Springfield, Illinois to Terre Haute, Indiana to be treated with a madstone after he was bitten by a dog. And I know that like Mary Todd Lincoln was into spiritualism, but I don't know that was Abraham Lincoln into that kind of stuff.
As far as I know, no, because I'm sure that if he was, any historians probably want to gloss over that because, most historians, I feel like when they tell his story, they only want to focus and highlight all the good and paint him in this, like, American hero, this amazing, true American blah, 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 light, and not, highlight any, like, faults or perceived faults. Like, so, I mean, it's entirely possible that he also was interested in the spiritualist movement. It could be that he wasn't into it.
Yeah. And this isn't like, I don't know, like, it's not really like a spiritualist practice, but it's kind of like mystical.
I mean, he enjoyed the theater until he didn't.
Until he didn't.
So, I mean, spiritualism is, theatrical.
True.
Speaking of. Knock, knock.
That's just Katy leaning back on the wall.
Well, the microphone's right there. I want to take a sip of wine, and I'm very self-conscious every time I take a sip.
I am too. Well, Robert lived to be 82, so he did not succumb to rabies.
That's impressive for the 20s.
I know. Well, 1850s is when he was a child, so...
I thought you said 1920.
Oh, no, 1852.
What?
President Lincoln was dead by the 1920s.
No.
Our story started...
You're talking about... You said Robert Lincoln's son.
Yes.
I was thinking about Adam.
Adam also lived. He did not succumb to rabies.
Okay, I thought when you said Robert lived, I wasn't thinking, I didn't make the mental connection. I thought you were like, let's get back to our story.
Yeah, sorry.
Like everyone else is listening is probably like, oh my God, get back to the story.
No. Both bite victims lived without contracting rabies or without dying of rabies. Which now I'm going to tell you about rabies. we get a fun little medical lesson.
Did I ever tell you about the time I accidentally vaccinated myself against rabies?
No, but good job. Good for you.
I was working as a vet tech, and so I was filling up the vaccines, and as I went to go put the cap back on the syringe after filling it up, I missed the cap and stabbed my finger.
Nice.
And I was like, well, not getting rabies now.
I was going to say, there's worse things you could accidentally stab yourself with.
I could have stabbed myself with the needle after I gave the dog the injection.
That's true. You could have, yeah. Also, you could have stabbed yourself with, like, a needle that had been used by another human.
Yeah.
Not good.
Yeah. That's why I never wanted to work with humans.
Yeah.
They're gross.
True. They're gross. They are gross.
I'd rather work with... I'd rather work, express anal glands on a dog than deal with humans.
Dogs are nicer.
Yeah.
So.
Because they're less likely to bite.
They're like...
They'll growl and warn before they actually bite you. Humans will probably just haul off and bite you for no reason.
They're like how bears are safer than certain humans.
I'd much rather work with bears.
I know. I did see a thing, some guy was explaining it, and he was like, essentially just saying, like, statistically, women are much safer with bears than they are with men. Just based on, like, how many...
I saw a video that someone was basically using statistics in the reverse about how, like, yeah, obviously women are safer, like, statistically safer because women rarely are encountering bears as opposed to encountering men on a daily basis. Like, take, an average woman, just living an average life, has a job, goes to work, blah, 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 has, a social life, whatever, goes to the grocery store. How many men is she likely to encounter any given day?
Yeah.
Versus how many bears are she likely to encounter on any given day? And I'm like, yeah, that is...
That's true.
Sure. But that's not the point.
That's not the point.
That is not the point. Like, yeah, you are also statistically more likely to die in a car accident than a plane accident.
Yeah.
Because you're in a car.
You're in a car more often.
Most people are in a car multiple times a day.
Yeah.
Every day.
Well, and this guy, too, he was like, there's, however many bears in America versus however many men are in America. He's like, even if you made the bear population equivalent to the population of human men, it would still be, even like just attacks on women, not just like, deaths, but he's like, it would still be significantly safer to be around a bear.
I saw some post about how they totaled up the number of, I think, fatal bear attacks, not just against women, but against everyone. And I forget all the specifics, and I'm so sorry for this, but essentially, they did kind of try to account for some, like, margin of error for things, but, like, anyway, the total number of fatal bear attacks was one less than the total number of fatal tree felling accidents.
Oh my gosh, that's not what I was expecting you to say.
More people have been killed by a falling tree than they have by a bear.
Yes. Oh, bears.
I mean, but it also, kind of like the statistics and it's a low statistics again, like shark attacks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, most people aren't in the water around sharks all the time.
Because they're smart. You shouldn't be in the water.
Yeah, maybe we should be smart and not be around men.
I agree. Although I didn't leave my house.
Topanga said it best on Boy Meets World. They had to come up with some idealistic future.
Oh, I remember this.
All the men were moved underground and only used for breeding purposes.
This is like one of the really early episodes, right?
Yes, they're in middle school.
Yeah. I love that. I was going to say, I didn't leave my house today and I still encountered 2 men. I mean, I live with one of them, but...
Same. I live with 2 of them.
You live with 2.
One's a little man, but he really is a little man sometimes.
I know. All those pictures you were showing me, we were talking about how his poses are like old soul. I went through all these pictures of my grandfather because I saved all the stuff. Now I'm trying to organize it. And I was like, that's who he reminds me of. He's just he's standing like my granddaddy when he was in his 70s.
Well, I mean, he's wearing overalls.
I know.
That's how you stand. Especially if you're a man, you put your hands not in the pockets of the overalls, but behind the bib and let him just kind of rest there. Like,
it's like a little pouch.
That's how you wear overalls. And he knew that.
He did. Smart.
It was innate.
Oh my gosh.
It's not a learned behavior. It's innate. He also knows to, like, lean on one arm and cross his feet while he eats cheese.
And look stoic. So cute. Oh my gosh. All right, well, are you ready to hear some terrible stuff? Okay. So rabies is a lethal viral disease that causes encephalitis, which is inflammation of the brain, in humans and other mammals. It's transmitted when an infected animal bites or scratches a person or animal. Symptoms usually develop in humans 1 to 3 months after the infection, which I hate shit like that.
It really takes a long time. Kind of like Lyme disease takes a little while. So, like, sometimes people don't realize they have it until, like, the disease has really progressed.
Yes.
And it's usually progressed past the point of treatment.
I hate this. Early symptoms are headache, fever, etc. Like, normal things that you wouldn't immediately think something is really wrong. Okay. So later symptoms of rabies include slight or partial paralysis, anxiety, insomnia, confusion, agitation, paranoia. Oh my gosh. Not paranormal. Paranoia. Good grief. Hallucinations and hydrophobia, which is...
Oh, I was about to say...
fear of water.
I clearly have rabies because I have all of that, except I don't really have the paranoia. I mean...
Oh, I've got that covered for you. Don't worry.
I have anxiety. Oh, I've got a good one for you. But I definitely don't have hydrophobia. I love the water.
Yeah, we do love water.
You don't. You don't love the ocean.
Oh, no. But, like, this is...
I like baths and pools.
But also, I like drinking water.
Oh, yeah.
And other liquids.
That's full on, like, yeah.
Because I think hydrophobia in this case includes just...
being touched by water.
And,
or, like,
and other liquids. So, like, just drinking anything in general. Yeah. Okay, there's also 2 kinds of rabies. There's ferocious rabies.
Of course there is.
Which is the most common. And that's when there's,
like... Is it also the most aggressive?
Yes. So it's irrational aggression is, like, the main takeaway from that. And then there's paralytic rabies, which is also called dumb rabies. And this one...
I can guess both of those. So, like, you see, like, a snarling, foaming at the mouth dog that's aggressive, whereas most dogs typically are not aggressive. Like, most animals, with the fight or flight, they're not going to attack. Like, animals don't generally attack for the fun of it.
Yeah, they don't just show up angry.
They attack for food.
Yeah. Or for
But if you're
or
bigger than them, you're not food.
Yeah.
But you're a potential threat.
Yes.
And most animals, with the fight or flight again, will choose to run unless they cannot safely run, at which point they will then fight or attack.
Yes.
So, anyway, most dogs, especially, the domesticated dog, even if it's a stray, it's a wild animal, never really been around people much, still not likely to just attack a human.
Right.
Completely unprovoked.
Right.
Rabid and dogs will.
Yeah. Yes.
And then people with rabies, the reason why, they say you're mad, it's not just because mad was the term used for crazy or insane. It was usually the, like, violently insane.
Yeah,
like, he's mad. He's a raving lunatic. He's, he's aggressive and loud and angry, and he will attack and whatnot. So, yeah.
Well, and then with the other one, with paralytic...
I can imagine it kind of shuts your brain down. By saying dumb, I'm imagining you lose the ability of speech, more or less, and maybe, you just start losing faculties. You lose your humanity, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
This is my guess.
Yeah.
You just kind of, like, shut down as a person.
Yeah. So depression and lethargy, and then like losing coordination,
zombification.
Yeah. And I feel like this one is one that the only time I've ever, I think, like heard of it being described as like, oh, you see like a raccoon or something that's just like kind of meandering around during the day. Yeah. So like, and I don't know if it's more common in...
Yeah, if you see a raccoon in the middle of the day, first off is like,
why are you up?
What are you doing? What's going on? And if they look drunk, you're like, okay, that ain't a raccoon that's been day drinking. That's a raccoon I need to stay away from.
Yes. Also, do you know what causes the foaming of the mouth? It's very logical. I feel like you could figure it out.
I hate being put on the spot like this. I feel like it's something
I thought you would know.
It's something I feel like I should know, and I'm gonna kick myself when you tell me.
So it's because of the hydrophobia. Since they're not drinking, they're producing more saliva, and so it's just
it's excess, like excess drool.
It's just excess saliva. So rabies most commonly affects dogs, unfortunately.
Maybe I do have rabies. I have overactive salivary glands. Anytime I have to have like dental work done.
Oh gosh,
my dentist always. I had one dentist. He had to give me some fillings. He's like, "You just helped me beat my my personal best record on how fast I went, just to keep me from drowning in my own
gosh,
spit."
that's so embarrassing. I'm like, dude, phrase that next time for your next patient. That's a terrible thing to say.
No, this is a dentist that I've had for years, and we had a really good rapport. Like,
okay,
I'm friends with my dentist.
Okay,
it's
I'm
weird.
Not friends with mine.
Well, yeah, you hadn't seen one in 8 years or something.
Well, now I have, and I saw 2 different ones, so I don't know who my dentist is. I go to a facility. I go to a practice.
No matter how much water or liquid I drink, I just my mouth stays, so anytime I take a medication that they're like, it might cause dry mouth, and I'm like, not for me.
Your mouth stays nice and moist.
I was going to say lubricated, because I don't like the M word.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, other animals besides dogs that rabies affects, bats, monkeys, raccoons, foxes, skunks, cattle, wolves, coyotes, cats, and mongooses.
They're already mean.
I know.
You know what animal doesn't get rabies?
That's my next.
The possum.
The possum. Because their body temperature is higher, right? Or lower, sorry. I feel
that might be it. I don't
think
remember, but yeah, they basically... Possums don't... If you kill a possum, we can't be friends.
No, possums are amazing.
If you're out driving in the middle of the night and it's like a dark country road and you accidentally hit a possum crossing the road, like, it's cool, I'll forgive you. I've done that.
Yes.
And I stopped. I went back to make sure that I had fully killed it and that it wasn't laying there suffering. Yeah, I wanted to make sure that he was fully dead.
Yes.
And if he wasn't dead, if he was mortally wounded, I would put him out of his misery. Oh, but if he was just a little wounded, I was definitely going to pick him up and bring him to a vet.
Oh my gosh.
So anyway, don't kill possums. They eat ticks and a lot of other bugs. Like, they're good. Just let them roam your yard.
Yes.
And also, they don't get rabies. So if they, do feel threatened by you or your dog, like, it's not likely you're going to get bit by a possum unless you're fucking with it. Yeah. Which, don't fuck with possums. Yeah. They're nice. Leave them alone.
And they're not fast, so they don't really attack. They play
play
dead.
Possum. They play possum.
Which I think is involuntary, which is even more adorable.
Kind of like the fainting goats.
Like the goats, yeah.
So, yeah, don't kill possums. Yes. They, don't worry if you see a possum in your yard. Your dog is fine. Your dog is probably going to hurt the possum more than the possum. Yeah, be worried
for the possum, not your dog. Well, also small rodents like rabbits, chipmunks, mice, and squirrels are also almost never found to be infected with rabies, along with marsupials in general.
Yeah. I was going to say, I think it's because possums are marsupials, and I don't know what it is about marsupials. You might be right about...
I think it's the body temperature is lower. Yeah.
But yeah. And it's not like 100% guaranteed that no possum ever. It's just... extremely
very
uncommon.
Unlikely. Yeah, be more afraid of that weird raccoon that you saw.
The drunk raccoon. Basically, if you see a raccoon in the middle of the day, just be like,
or a raccoon at night. Don't approach it, because raccoons are not the same as possums. Yeah. They might attack you. I don't know.
I mean, don't go kill raccoons, but
be nice to every animal. Guys.
Give them their space. They are a wild animal.
Yeah.
It still makes me think of that video. Every now and then, that video randomly pops into my head, or it pops up on my feed somehow. Can I pet that dog?
Oh, yeah!
Can I pet that dog? It's a little girl, and they're clearly in the mountains in the country somewhere, probably staying at a cabin, and there's a small black bear just on the other side of the porch railing.
Yeah.
And she really wants to pet the dog. And I'm like,
no.
I am that little girl.
I know.
But can I pet that dog? Can I pet that dog?
Well, now I have some Boyd facts for you.
Boyds.
This is just to make you hate Boyds even more.
Boyds.
Birds, everyone, is what we're talking about. If you don't understand
For our first-time listeners.
The weird-ass accent we're doing.
I'm Katy, and I don't like birds.
Katy hates birds. She doesn't. You distrust them.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't hate them because I try not to hate much.
Yes.
I was gonna say anything, but I'll allow myself a few things to hate.
Yes.
But I don't trust birds.
Well,
There are crows and owls are my two exception to my anti-bird stance.
All right.
And that's because that's a begrudging respect / slight admiration.
yeah.
I respect the owls.
Mm-hmm.
I like crows, though.
Yeah, those are cool.
They're too smart. They're like, they don't... I feel like they were like wizards or something that got cursed by some other warlock to be birds forever.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, actually. Now that I'm thinking about it.
They don't... Because crows are the most unbird-like birds.
Yeah, and
They're too smart to be birds.
Yeah, and if you don't respect them, they're smart enough to, like, fuck you up.
They will mess with you. I still love that story. I think I read it, like I found it and read it on the podcast about...
The Taco Bell, or was it Taco Bell, or...
No, we probably did talk about that one. The one I'm thinking is... I think it started during quarantine, and some guy started like feeding the crows and like leaving little trinkets like nickels, or they like shiny objects, so he would leave them some food and some shiny objects, and some of the neighbors were like, he basically had a crow army hanging out in his front yard, and a lot of his neighbors were kind of like, we don't know about this.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, dude. I've been researching crows now because it's quarantine and that's what we do. I couldn't find any flour to make sourdough, so I'm into crows.
We're into crows now.
And he's like, yeah, no. Because the crows started kind of, like, if they were just out for a walk, but they got by his property, they might, like, dive bomb or, not attack, but dive bomb and, like, try and scare him off, like they were protecting their human friend. Yeah. And so he got a lot of the other people in his neighborhood to start also leaving gifts for the crows. So basically, like, this whole block was Crow City. And he had a elderly neighbor. And so one day, like, the crows were, like, kind of, I think, tapping at his glass, or, like, they were on his balcony, and they were just causing a ruckus to get his attention. And they kept flying over... in one direction, coming back, flying back. Like, basically the Lassie of birds. Yeah. And sure enough, it was across the street and maybe down a house. He looked and he saw that his elderly neighbor had walked down his driveway to go get the mail, and he'd fallen and was struggling to get back up. So he was able to get out in there and, help him up and help him back up the driveway. He was fine. Yeah. It was just, I think he turned wrong, tumbled. But yeah, the crows.
The crows.
See...
So the crows have eyes.
Crows too smart to be birds.
Well, I'm just going to tell you something that'll make you distrust birds even more. A lot of times, birds who are infected with rabies are largely asymptomatic and just recover. And some species even develop antibodies after feeding on rabies-infected mammals. So for whatever weird reason, rabies doesn't affect birds.
See, I forget that there's carnivorous birds out there. That's a thing that I'm glad to forget. Because I don't like birds. And that's just the ones that are, like, flitting around eating seeds. I'm like, that's fine.
But the ones that are
there's the ones that
around
eat
eating
meat.
Flesh. Oh my gosh.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So humans have known about rabies since about 2000 BC. The first written record was in the Mesopotamian Codex of Eshnunna, which was in 1930 BC. So people have come up with various remedies throughout the years, including a poultice of cloth and hyena skin, a preparation from the skull of a hanged man. Love the ones that, like, how are you going to get this ingredient? Oh, I hate this one.
It has to be a body part, but a very specific type of body part.
Yes.
From a very specific type of person with a very specific situation.
Yeah. Yes.
It can only be procured under a full moon.
I was going to say, you can only
so
get
it's like,
it
I finally found the hand of, a left-handed witch who died on a Tuesday. But the full moon was, 3 days ago, and now I gotta wait basically another month. And so I'm just gonna camp out by her gravesite.
The hand's not gonna be in good condition by then, so good luck. Another one is cutting the lingual frenulum. That I assume they're talking about the part underneath your tongue. It says the tongue attachment. Mm-hmm. Cutting that, because I guess people used to think that's where rabies was stored or something. Another one is cauterizing the wound with something called St. Hubert's Key. That one was occasionally successful because if you cauterize the wound soon enough, you kill the infection.
Yeah, kill the virus.
Yeah, that one, it was one that, like, probably worked often enough that they were like, oh,
it's the cure.
It's the cure, without realizing, like, what was actually happening. In some cultures, when a victim began to show symptoms, several people, mostly relatives, I think, would, quote, throw a heavy blanket over them and smother them.
Awesome. Also, okay, again, how long? You said it could take 1 to 3 months
1 to 3 months.
So, also, couldn't it, with that most successful rabies, using air quotes here, cure, with the cauterizing, I mean, could that also be that they got bit by a dog or something that appeared that it might have rabies, but actually didn't? And so they just cauterized, they stopped the bleeding, prevented further infection, or, well, maybe not, because it's still like a burn, it's still a wound.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, anyway, they never had the rabies to begin with, because if they're cauterizing a wound, that's a month at the earliest before they show symptoms, so they never actually had the rabies.
You, Katie, have
I'm gonna take a sip.
Vocalized not the plot of it, but, like, the plot twist.
Oh, I'm gonna finish my glass.
Okay.
That was just one more sip
to
finish my glass. So.
Yeah, she wasn't chugging half a glass of wine.
I was trying to use my telepathy.
Telepathic powers to...
This stone isn't working.
Sorry. Well, the stone is not for wine getting, Katie. It's for curing rabies.
No, it's not, because it's black and it's not porous.
It
is a smooth, polished surface. Therefore, it is not porous. Therefore, it cannot absorb any viral
We haven't
bodies.
Even gotten to the part about various descriptions of the stone. Also, Katie and I both have had to slide out of our chairs to get out of
but I feel like I have to do that a lot.
the situation we find ourselves in. Okay, so I don't know. I thought I was gonna have a bigger point about this, but
sorry, I feel like I totally stole your thunder.
No. I was looking through my notes because I was
like, your sails.
I was looking through my notes because I was like, am I gonna say this part eventually? And I think I mentioned it, but once you start showing symptoms of rabies, it is too late to treat it. So if you get to the point where you're showing where someone can tell just by your behavior or whatever that you have rabies, you are going to die from it.
And typically from the onset of symptoms, how long until death?
I am not sure. I don't know if I wrote that down.
I need to chat with Barry. You remember Father Dr. Barry?
Oh yeah, I do remember him.
He's a doctor, not a father. Well, no, he is a father now.
Okay.
Adorable little girl
Aww.
named Charlie. Little Charlotte.
I love that name.
Charlie. But he's a doctor, and he specializes in infectious diseases.
Ooh, okay.
And so next, I think we might be going up to Richmond soon. I'll be like, Barry, let's chat about rabies.
Tell me about rabies.
I got questions.
Yeah. I will say, if you go on the Wikipedia page for rabies, there is a, in my opinion, really unsettling video. It's meant to demonstrate the hydrophobia.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a person who has rabies, and he's trying to take a drink, not even of water. I don't know what it is. But it's like his body convulses, like, as he gets it close. Like, it's weird. But also, I was like, oh, that person died. Like, I'm watching a video of a person who died from that disease, and it's...
Anytime I, feel bad, like, you see a video or a picture or something of someone who's had this horrible experience, and you're like, oh, gosh, but I feel like this is just on the internet for everyone to see, but at the same time, it is educational. And like, because this person, allowed, or this person's family allowed for, these images or these videos to be seen, that is, hopefully educating people, and hopefully not ever being used in a inappropriate way.
Yeah.
And so I was just trying to focus on yes, it's very sad, this person's fate, but also because of this person's experience and because of being able to see the videos of this, it's kind of like, because of their sacrifice, we can help others in the future.
Yeah. Well, one of the reasons, so like, rabies was not necessarily super common, but it was really, like, people really wanted a cure for it because it was so scary. And so a quote that I thought was a good way of describing it, it says, rabies is the visible symbol of the animal infecting the human, of an illness in a creature metamorphosizing demonstrably into that same illness in a person. And then a separate quote says, the person exhibiting symptoms of rabies has in some sense become canine, increasingly feral, less human.
So does that mean people who have had COVID become pangolin-ish? Because it did originate from pangolins, right? I think it started with pangolins and maybe moved to bats.
For a second, I thought you were just saying penguins wrong. Then I remembered pangolins are a thing.
It's one of my kids' favorite bath toys is a pangolin.
Pangolin.
He has, little, like, animal figurines that squirt water, but they're endangered animals.
I love that. Me too. So cute.
And, so, yeah, he loves the pangolin.
Yeah.
And, so, yeah, I think they were the original source, but I think weren't bats like the human vector? And so basically it was they infected bats and then humans ingested the bat meat.
Yeah.
Or did it go straight from the pangolin? Because I know that there's like a black market for pangolins. It's like, that super old Chinese medicine, kind of like mad stones and whatnot. There's a lot of those witchy items, it's you gotta harvest the this on the this moon and the this situation.
Well,
in ancient Chinese
it's the
medicine.
Universe's way of punishing the world for eating an endangered species.
Mother Earth is like, I've had it with
They're
you.
like, here's a pandemic. Congratulations. But, so this is kind of what I meant by, like, it's werewolf adjacent, because getting
people
rabies,
transform.
Yeah, you are kind of transforming into, like, an animalistic kind of figure.
A wild, like you're a wild version of yourself.
Yeah,
like
you're becoming feral. Yeah. So today, rabies is actually still pretty difficult to diagnose. It takes a fluorescent antibody test, which just means like microscopic analysis. The most reliable way to do this is with brain tissue, which has to be taken after you're dead.
I thought it was spinal fluid. But
you can get it, I think, from... my next thing, it says, less reliable when using saliva or cerebrospinal fluid. So you can, it's just less reliable.
Yeah, because that would be for the living people.
Yes. Because
so it's like, oh, he died. We don't really know what he died of. We think it's rabies. Let's cut his brain open.
Let's look at his brain. Yeah, and I think that's how they diagnose a lot of animals. Like if you get bit by a wild animal, they will put the animal down and then
yes, because
take a piece of brain.
So yeah, if you get bit by a wild animal and you're like, I got bit by a raccoon at like 1 PM, and the reason I was still around is because he was weeble wobbling around like he was drunk, and we thought it was funny, but then he bit me.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, we're going to euthanize that raccoon, and then we're going to look at his brain, and if he got rabies, we need to get you some treatment right now.
Yes.
Before you start with the symptoms.
Yes. Specifically within 10 days. Because my next point is it's much easier to treat if you catch it in time. Oh, here's my one point. Rabies is almost always fatal once symptoms develop. I tried to look up like a actual statistic because they kept saying almost always, and then they kept mentioning like just one case of someone who had shown symptoms and been able to recover. I want to say maybe there's more than one. There's enough that it's like 99%.
It's enough that it's not just one person ever in the history of anything.
Yes.
Because if it was just one person, they would be like Henrietta Lacks. And they basically would be like, okay, we need your blood. Yeah. We need a lot of your DNA.
We need to figure out how
we need to constantly like, every couple of weeks we're going to come and take another sample from you because... it's kind of like with the, the horseshoe crabs, their blood is used in a lot of medical treatments and whatnot. Blood. It's like we need to study so that we can create, basically replicate whatever it is about your DNA that made you able to survive and, fight off this infection. We need to be able to, bottle and sell that.
Yeah. And I think it's probably,
It's probably a few people, but not a lot.
Yeah, and I think it's, has to do with, I don't know. I'm sure it has to do with the treatment that they got, but until 1885, rabies was 100% fatal. So you're not going to just recover from it on your own. But in 1885, our buddy Louis Pasteur and another guy named Emile Roux, who we don't really talk about much, they developed the first...
Pasteur is so much more fun to say.
I know, right?
Pasteur.
Although Roux is spelled like a roux.
R-O-U-X.
Yeah. Like a roux.
For those non-French or Cajun French-speaking people, R-O-U-X.
So they developed the first vaccine and successfully used it to cure rabies in a young boy named Joseph Meister, who had been bitten 14 times by a rabid dog. The way I first read that was like he had 14 different encounters with this dog.
I'm thinking then I was like, what actually happened was there are 14 different puncture wounds on this poor child's body.
Yes. So he required 12 doses for 10 days. And I think that's 12 doses per day for 10 days. He just needed a lot of this very new vaccine that at the time had only, I think, been used to vaccinate animals. So we have since refined that. I mean,
it kind of makes sense to give the frequency, the 12 times a day, because, I mean, I guess that's to not just kill, but also hopefully prevent the future replication of the virus.
And also, I like to think that they were just we just want to be extra sure. So you're going to die from this if it doesn't work, so we want to be extra sure.
Well, it's kind of like, it might work, it might not. But if we don't do anything, he's definitely going to die.
Yes.
So, that's one of those, let's try the thing.
Yeah, it's he's not going to...
Did he have any permanent, side effects from either the disease or the vaccinations?
Not that I'm aware of.
Lived to grow up into a healthy young man and live a full, normal life.
Yep.
Yeah. See, that would be worth the risk.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I think if I were in that position, I might need to think about it a little bit more. But I feel like as a parent, I'm like, okay, either 100% chance of death if we do nothing,
Or maybe...
But possibly, like, even if it's a small % chance of him living, especially living with no negative repercussions.
Yeah. Even if he did live with, like, some kind of side effect, it's better than dying from rabies.
Yeah.
It's like the worst. Yeah, it sounds like the...
I would much rather have my son and him, I don't know, like, lose his hearing as a result of the disease, or, you know, be paralyzed from the waist down, or something like that, but still have my kid.
Yeah.
Than not have my kid.
Yes.
Then again, you know, I'm speaking as a person who's never experienced some sort of childhood illness that resulted in a negative thing. So, like, there could be somebody listening that's like, yeah, well, I had this disease when I was a kid, and now I'm paralyzed, and it fucking sucks. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, so he turned out fine.
Good for him.
Yeah. Currently, the rabies vaccine is 100% effective if given before the onset of symptoms. So, the way it's done, you get 1 dose of the human rabies immunoglobulin, which is given...
That's always a fun word to say.
I know. I was really proud of myself for getting it on the first try. I'm not going to say it again. You get that one, like, around where you actually got bitten. Mm-hmm. And then you get 4 doses over 14 days of... the regular vaccine, it just said the rabies vaccine, at a site far away from the first place. Yeah, then you're good. Hey everyone, it's Hannah. I wanted to quickly ask if you are enjoying the podcast, please leave us a 5-star review. It goes a long way in getting the show in front of other listeners. If you listen on a platform that doesn't do reviews, please follow us on social media, like the show, or leave a comment. Thank you. We love you guys, and we hope you enjoy the show. Okay, so the most effective way to prevent rabies is
not f with animals. Don't f with wild animals.
Well, even before that.
No, just don't f with wild animals. Yeah. End of show. End of episode.
Okay, that is one of my bullet points. Don't handle wild animals or strays, and supervise your pets. But first, we need to get on board with widespread vaccination efforts, specifically of domesticated animals. But also, you can vaccinate wild animals, like leaving bait out in, which I didn't know there was an oral option for this.
Didn't know either.
Yeah, there's been, I think in Canada, there was like a campaign to do widespread rabies vaccinations through bait. And it's been good.
There's a couple of areas in town where I know that there is like a feral cat population. And
I'm familiar with that. Familiar with those cats.
And there's a woman who used to shop at Publix all the time, but she's been banned. Like, she's been banned for a long time because she was stealing cat food, because she was one of those people that would go out and feed the feral cats.
Don't steal the food to do that.
She was also the woman that brought the bug pizza to Shelton.
Oh, I remember that. Okay.
Yeah. No, for our more recent listeners, because I feel like I haven't told this story in a while, I'll tell it short. Crazy cat lady she brought in some bottles of old pills. She's like, hey, you know, I've got some like leftover pills that, you know, I didn't finish taking. I know I'm not supposed to flush them down the toilet or throw them in the trash. Can I give them to you? And he's like, yeah, we don't really do medicine take back. That's more the police now. But sure, we'll go ahead and take them. And then he looked at the bottle, and there's pills and live roaches, like the small little roaches and like other bugs. And he's like, "Oh yeah, no, that's going straight to the dumpster. Like, get this out now." Yeah. And one day, she brought him. I don't remember if this was before or after the pills, but she brought him a little plate covered in aluminum foil. She's like, hey, you know, I love cooking, and I was, you know, experimenting with something, and she's like, have you had pierogies before? He's like, yeah, pierogies, they're great. She's like, I tried something new. It's a little weird, but give it a try before you tell me. It's pierogi pizza. And he's like, yeah, that sounds interesting. Great. I'll definitely try that. Thank you so much. And he, you know, puts it over to the side because they're busy. And I think he described it as he went to go check out I don't know if he said he was just wanted to see what it looked like, or if he actually saw the aluminum foil moving, and he lifted the corner, and there's all sorts of roaches and bugs, like, just stuck in the cheese and the mashed potatoes, and just like kicking their legs. And he's like, this needs to go out right now, and now we need to fully, like, sanitize the pharmacy.
So gross. That was a storyline on Call the Midwife recently. I say recently. In the episode I watched recently. Have I told you I'm into that show now? That's my...
No, this is recent.
That's my new... It's to keep me from watching true crime stuff. Someone recommended it because it's wholesome, which it is. However...
I feel like you also need to watch 1,000 Ways to Die. That will send your anxiety. That will either send you into an anxiety spiral where you're afraid of everything, or cure you of it.
Okay. Well, Call the Midwife,
one or the other,
is very wholesome, and I love it. However, I am ugly crying every episode, either because, like, partly because
maybe me and my emotional camel self need to watch that.
Watch it. Okay, first of all,
because I know crying is cathartic and healing.
Yes. First of all, you watch a baby being born every episode, which that makes me cry, anyways. I cry. That baby comes out. I'm waterworks.
One is enough for me.
Okay,
Actually,
I don't want to have
enough.
I don't want multiples.
2 is enough. I had to watch The Miracle of Life when I was in like 6th grade, so I watched a video of.
To be clear, you're not
everything.
You're not It's a tasteful shot from under the where you see the leg and then you just see the head. Kind of. It's not that gross, but there's heart-wrenching storylines.
And it's gross.
Okay.
I've had the nasty thing on my chest and I loved every second of it. I watched my husband cut the umbilical cord. It's gross. Okay. It's beautiful. It's miraculous. Blah, blah, blah. No.
Okay, well,
it's gross. I'm thankful for that experience. I'm beyond thankful for that experience. It's fucking gross.
Well, there's also storylines like the woman who has her beautiful baby, but it's born with spina bifida, and then they have to, like, come to terms with that and decide not to give it to an orphanage. Or there's the woman who kind of has a problematic marriage because she married her husband when she was, like, 15, and he was an adult, but they love each other so much, and they have 24 children together. And she speaks Spanish, and he speaks English, and neither one of them speak the other language, but they love each other so much, they just, I don't know. She has her
They don't love each other. They have strong physical chemistry and a very strong aversion to birth control.
Well,
and how long have they been married and they haven't learned at least a little bit of the other language?
They have like a baby a year because and then they're
24 years together.
But then
and you haven't picked up a little bit of Spanish or English? Yes,
I know.
That's
I'm like,
false.
All 24 of your children are bilingual. But then
they can't. Yeah, the 24-year-old should definitely be able to translate for you both.
She does. Don't worry. That's how we know what's going on.
Jesus.
But the 25th one is born premature, and you think that it's born stillborn, and so you're already crying over that. But then he wakes up. I don't know. Comes back to life, and then through love, they nurse him back to health. I'm telling you, Katie, I've not cried so much.
Too much sugar and rainbows and unicorns.
I told
for
my
me.
therapist about this. She's like, that's not the show I would have recommended for you, but good for you, I guess.
It's so funny. I mean, I don't know, I guess, I don't know, I was gonna say, I'm like, oh, I feel like you're more like the dark, but no, I'm more the dark.
Yeah, you have many fewer emotions than me. There's so much inside of me, and half of it's fear, and half of it's
that's
just...
definitely all, like, sunshine and rainbows. And I feel like because you're the anxious Annie. Sorry, Hannah's mom. I know that's your mom's name. I realized after I said it. And I'm what is it? Cynical Cynthia.
Ooh, I like that. There's a nurse Cynthia. She's not cynical. She's very emotional, like me.
Or maybe I'm cynical Cindy.
It's also set in the 50s, and so, like, just the wardrobes are beautiful, and, like, all the people are beautiful.
So wait, is this a reality or a...
No, it's a fictional show, but it's based off the memoirs of a midwife.
Okay.
In England in the 50s.
See, but it's so funny, 'cause, like, for you, you're like, oh, the sunshine and rainbows. And for me, it's like I mean, I was almost paralyzed with fear, like on an almost daily basis. Of like, while I was pregnant, I was like, there are so many things that could go wrong at any given time. I actually had to go to the hospital because I stopped feeling him kick for too long.
Oh gosh.
And I mean, like, there's no guarantee. You go into the hospital and have a baby. It doesn't matter if it's on your due date, a week early, a week late, anytime you go into the hospital to have a baby, there's no guarantee that you're going home with a baby.
Yeah.
And that was a very present thought in my mind.
Yeah.
Every day.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm the cynical Susan.
Well, I don't know. I think
but I'm also such an empath. So like because I've experienced that anxiety and fear, but I'm also like I don't enjoy dramatic films very much, and I certainly don't enjoy like emotional books.
Yeah. I feel like you're such an empath that you don't want to feel your own feelings sometimes.
That is 100% accurate.
Yeah, you're like, I feel so many other people's feelings.
100% accurate. So I can handle gore in a way. Like, you know, when I was working at the vet's office, you know, I was on my lunch break and I was standing outside of the OR literally eating a bag of Cheetos. Like, oh, you just took that cat's eye out. Like, that's so cool. Oh my gosh. Using a laser to like cut and cauterize the skin and muscle as you amputate that dog's leg. Like, that's so cool. Like, that's all like very interesting and fascinating to me. Didn't make my stomach turn. But some very gory horror movies and some war movies. It was a war movie that almost made me vomit because they went to go pick up a soldier who'd like kind of been blown up. They picked him up, grabbed him at his knees, and the skin had been burned.
I know that movie.
Slid down to like his ankles as they went to go pick him up. I had to leave the room. I thought I was gonna vomit, and there's a House of Wax, terrible horror movie, terrible movie. I cannot watch it. Because I watched it the first time, and where she's like wiggling her finger through the grate to try and get somebody's attention, and the bad guy sees it, and he takes wire cutters and just cuts off. And then there's the Achilles tendon moment.
Nope.
Because I'm such an empath, I internalize, I imagine, I put myself in that person's shoes and really try to imagine what pain they're going through.
You involuntarily try to do that.
Yeah, no, like
You're not
I don't want to do that. This is a subconscious, like my brain automatically puts me there and it makes me live that experience. And so like reading books, like there's an author that I really like, I really respect. I've read a few of her books. I want to read more, but I cannot. Because I cannot handle the emotional turmoil that she puts her characters through. Like applause to her. Like, great author, great storyteller. Like, she comes up with these really just intense, emotional stories. And they're very good. I just can't read them.
Yeah.
Like, even the more lighthearted stuff that I sometimes read, there's a little bit of, like, there's the third act breakup or whatever, and there's some emotional turmoil that it legit impacts my mood. And I'll tell Shelton sometimes, I'm like, okay, I'm in a tense part of my book, and if I stop right now, it's going to put me in a really bad mood and a bad mental space, but, like, I know that there's the happily ending coming, like, there's going to be a resolution. I need a few minutes to get to that, and once I get through this tough time, then I can be a normal person again.
Yeah. Okay, so if you awaken to find a bat in your room, or if suddenly you find a bat in a room where Critter was unattended for any period of time, or where a person who is either mentally disabled or intoxicated to the point where they would not be able to tell you if they had an encounter with said bat.
So Meredith from The Office,
Yeah.
who definitely did have an encounter with a bat.
Yes.
But I guess clearly didn't realize that she'd also been bitten by said bat until Michael hit her with the car.
Yes.
Also, not spoilers. If you haven't seen that episode of The Office...
Like 10 years old. It's fine.
That is way older than 10 years. It's like 15 years.
Okay. 15. Whatever.
Still.
So if you ever find yourself in any of those scenarios, specifically I love the one where it's like, if you wake up and there's a bat in your room, just treat the situation as if you have been bitten by a rabid bat. The majority of rabies cases in the United States today are caused by bats. And the idea is...
It's because... Yeah, like most people know not to mess with a foaming at the mouth animal, whether it's raccoon or dog or anything else that potentially contracts and carries rabies. But bats are much more stealthy.
Yes. And apparently you can get bitten by a bat and not realize that you've been bitten. So...
Meredith from The Office.
Yes. So I just thought that was like the funniest way of phrasing, like, if you awaken to find a bat in your room, go get treated. So essentially it's getting treated, whether you know you have rabies or have, come in contact with it or not.
I have a question.
Yes.
If you wake up from spending the night inside the murder cabin and then the next day spend the day clearing some, furniture and other random stuff off the porch of the murder cabin, and you pull away some boards to find a bat sleeping, do we call the doctor? Because honestly,
I feel like
if either Shelton or I got bit by that bat that was outside the cabin,
oh yeah, I think if
we would have definitely contracted rabies by now if the bat had rabies.
Yes, I think if the bat was outside of where you slept, probably okay.
Yeah.
However, if
he was so cute, little fuzzy.
If you found the bat inside where you were sleeping, I feel like the CDC would say, get a rabies vaccine just in case. Just in case. Because if you start showing symptoms, you're gonna die.
It's not gonna hurt you to get the vaccine if you haven't been bit.
Exactly.
It's going to hurt you to not get the vaccine if you have been bit.
Yes. I was like, what is this word I wrote down? Post-exposure is what I wrote down. So, U.S. death rates from rabies have dropped from 100 a year in the early 20th century to 1 to 2 a year. So, death rates. And I think that's mostly from people who have been bitten by a bat and don't realize that they've been bitten. It's not...
Yeah,
like dog bites anymore.
They go to sleep and wake up and they don't notice that there was a bat in the room.
Or they do and they didn't hear this piece of advice.
Yeah.
So, I did have to specifically look up because I was like, okay, we're talking about people. What happens if your dog gets in a fight with a raccoon and for whatever reason you haven't gotten your dog vaccinated against rabies? Everyone, if you have a dog, get them vaccinated against rabies. It's like a 3-year vaccine. You don't have to do it very often.
Yeah, there's the 1 year and there's a 3-year option.
Okay, well,
so you can choose.
Kelly has her 3-year, and it's hard. I don't know. Just if you need help paying for it.
Cats also get rabies vaccines.
Yes,
too.
sorry.
But honestly, if your cat is an indoor only cat and also doesn't interact, so basically we have one cat. She lives inside, does not go outside, She does not leave the screened-in back porch.
She barely interacts with people.
Yeah, she barely interacts with people. Definitely no other cats. And bringing her to the vet for yearly vaccines is such a traumatic experience for her. That is like the only time where it's okay to not regularly vaccinate your cat.
Yes.
Your dog, even if it's it's one dog in the house and it only goes to the backyard to pee and maybe on a few walks and never experiences other animals, you still need to get your dog vaccinated.
Yeah, still get that vaccine.
Cats are like my only exception.
Yeah.
And it's only specific cats.
Yes.
Because Mira used to get yearly vaccinations. It wasn't until she started getting older that bringing her to the vet was such...
like more traumatizing.
It was much more traumatizing to her. That I was like, because cats, if nothing else, they need, like, especially if they interact with other cats, even if it's just cats in your own home, like, they still need the FIV
Mm-hmm.
and the rabies.
Yeah.
Ideally also distemper, but, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause
ideally all of them.
I was going to say, because we don't get Kelly we declined one of her vaccines because it's like only really needed if you board her. And I'm like,
that's Bordetella.
Bordetella, okay.
And because that's a respiratory virus. So
Okay.
it's for kennel cough.
Yeah. But she never in her life has she been.
Bordetella is a vaccine for kennel cough and some other, respiratory things.
Right. There's also, I think, a water one that they told us we didn't need to get if she doesn't get in the water.
Yeah.
And she's scared of water. So we've declined that one too.
She does have rabies. She's got the hydrophobia.
She does. She really does hate bodies of water.
The only other, I think, optional vaccine for dogs is flu.
Yeah, we've declined that one too. Again, because she's never really around other dogs for long periods.
We've declined it sometimes, and sometimes when they're like, okay, flu in dogs is running rampant in our area right now, and we're like, we know we have to board the dogs next month for whatever reason, that's when we get that one.
Yeah.
Anyway, vaccinate your animals.
Vaccinate them.
If there are vaccines available for any of your animals, get them.
Unless
vaccinate your children too while you're at it. Cheese and rice.
Well, the other reason you should vaccinate your pets is because there is no USDA licensed biologics, whatever, for post-exposure. So essentially,
basically, if your dog has been bitten by a rabid animal or an animal that potentially is rabid, you will be putting your dog to sleep at some point.
Yes.
There's no treatment for it.
Well, there's not one that's been approved by the USDA. Technically, I think... So what they say...
There's always the Mad Stones.
Yeah, which we're going to talk about in a second. Technically, they say, like, if your dog has been exposed to potential rabies, you should euthanize them if they're not vaccinated. But if you refuse to euthanize them, which I would because I'm probably a terrible person... I love my dog so much.
No, your dog is no longer going to be your dog. They're going to succumb to that disease.
Yes. So, but if you refuse, if you're not going to euthanize them... You're going to
put them through suffering.
Hold on. It's a potential rabies exposure. We're not even... Okay. It's recommended...
Empath.
That you should get them vaccinated within 96 hours, and you have to keep them in quarantine for 4 to 6 months. And I think... What I got from that was there is a possibility that getting the vaccine after being exposed could prevent them from developing rabies, which is why you have to wait 4 to 6 months. But it's not guaranteed, which is probably why it's not approved by the USDA.
Right.
So
there probably haven't been enough approved studies.
Yes.
Is the main thing.
Yes. Okay. So go back in time. We're pre-vaccine. We're pre-1885. All we have is a Mad Stone.
Yeah, our dude man went to get his Mad Stone, and he's all better.
Yes.
All better.
Okay, so descriptions of the stone vary. They can be black, which is what ours is. They can be brown. They can be gray. They can be mottled brown. They can also be any variation of any of those colors, which to me means any color. They can also be as small as a pumpkin seed or several inches long. Now, where do they come from? Would you be surprised if I told you there's not one solid answer for where they come from?
Not in the least.
Sometimes they come from the ocean. Sometimes, a lot of times, they come from an animal. What kind of animal, you ask? I'll tell you. A moose, an elk, a buffalo, a barren heifer, which is a female cow that can't have babies, a deer, sometimes explicitly a white deer, which we have one of those in our neighborhood in case you need a Madstone, a possum, a goat, etc.
So, if they're coming from an animal, none of that is a stone. That's a bone.
I'm so glad you said that. So,
because when you say if they come from an animal, if you're getting a rock from an animal, it will be coming from a bird.
Yes. Okay, so it's not an animal part. This is a rock that you are getting from usually their stomach, which I'm going to get into.
A gizzard stone.
Yeah, kind of. Or like a kid. Okay, so some people said they come from the head. I don't know how. Some people said the heart. Some people said the intestines. A lot of people said that a madstone is created when an animal swallows a foreign object and it becomes, quote, coated with layers of magnesia and phosphate of ammonia.
Like a pearl for an oyster.
Yeah, and then they, I guess, poop it out. Some people don't think they come from animals at all.
I'm going to go with not animals. Also, again, if you're getting a stone from an animal, I still say that it came from a bird. Because birds, like chickens, and also dinosaurs, have an organ called a gizzard. And dinosaurs especially, and still some birds, will actually eat rocks. As a way of... So they'll ingest rocks. And the rocks will, like... kind of knock together to help in the digestion process of, like, breaking up the foods that they do eat, like the seeds and everything, to help digest their food. I
wonder if that's why Kelly tries to eat rocks sometimes.
Maybe. But, yeah, I remember this from my dinosaurs class.
Oh. I like that you keep holding up the stone like it's a bird or
this is a
dinosaur.
gizzard stone. But, they would, because they would get, just kind of beaten up together. Basically, they're put through a living rock tumbler.
I was going to say a rock tumbler.
They would get, beaten kind of smooth. And so when, paleontologists were finding skeletons, they're finding skeletons, dinosaur remains, they would sometimes also find basically a pile of these smooth stones. And they finally discovered they were gizzard stones.
Nice.
Also, side note, chicken gizzards. Delicious.
Gross.
I will make them one day. You've got to try them. They are. Are
you gonna trick me by having me come over for movie night and
I
then
will
be like,
never trick
I'll just come up with something for dinner?
I will never trick you into eating something.
Oh, thank you.
Without telling you. The only time I would ever trick you into eating something if I was like gave you like, it's a brownie. JK, there's black beans in there, or there's zucchini in there. I know everyone thought I was gonna say weed. Gotcha.
I was like, wow, that's worse. Tricking me into doing drugs. Although, honestly, I will never
trick you into... I did trick Nia in drugs. Into the opposite of drugs.
Oh.
She was... we were... This was years ago before any of us were parents. We were all, like, drinking. She's like, do you have a Xanax? And I was like, you don't need a Xanax. She's like, no, I do. And I'm like, no, you need to go to bed. And she's like, no. And I was like, all right. Sure, I got something for you. I gave her one of my allergy pills. Oh. I told her, I was like, it's cetirizine.
I mean,
which it was. That was cetirizine is the,
I was gonna say
the word for Zyrtec.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's cetirizine. She's like, why has it got an M on it? And I was like, oh, it's metirizine. It's the off-brand. I don't know.
You gave an explanation.
I don't know.
Just saying, I don't know.
She was drunk enough that she didn't care.
Yeah.
And I gave her an allergy pill, and
I was gonna say,
she thought she was taking, like, basically a Xanax, and it did help her. Like, she had the placebo effect. It did help her kind of calm and mellow. It also happens that the allergy pill does have some drowsy effects sometimes, and she went to bed like an hour later, and she was fine. She was a little pissed at me later. I was like... I feel like you should be pissed at me for giving you actual drugs and telling you it's just aspirin and not the other way around.
Exactly. Yeah. I was gonna say my as needed anxiety medication is also an antihistamine, so it
because again
just slows my heart rate down.
This was years ago before we had kids. I was still the mom of the group, and someone's like, "Oh, I need drugs to take kind of recreationally," and I'm like, sure, let me get you a Benadryl. I'll tell you it's drugs.
It's something else. Technically it's drugs.
I mean, it is technically drugs.
Yep.
It's not what you're asking for. No. It's giving you the desired effects that you were seeking. And I'm allowing you to think. I was basically, I was training for toddlers. The years that I was hanging out with my friends while they were partying hard,
friends. Yeah.
and I was taking care of all of them, I was just training for a toddler.
I like that. Good to know. Good to know. Well, in 1891, one man whose name I didn't write down examined several madstones, and he declared that many of them were, quote, an aluminous shale. Sorry, I said that weird. Aluminous shale or other absorptive substance. I paused because I wanted to say aluminious. And I was like,
Would have been acceptable.
there's an American way to say that. Aluminous shale. Okay.
So, shale with a lot of high aluminum content, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Okay.
Or just another absorptive substance. He also found that some of them contained tabashir. Do you know what that is?
Mm-mm.
So it's a translucent white substance made of silica and water that can be found in bamboo. Apparently it kind of looks like opal. But there's some bamboo down the street, and I really want to... You can, like, cut bamboo and, like, I guess, shake it and see if you hear something in it, and you can cut it open and maybe find fake opal. Fun fact.
I did not know that.
There you go. Teaching you something about geology. I get geology and geography mixed up. That's why I had to pause.
That wasn't what the look was for.
Oh, okay.
I was like,
It's geology.
It's loose to call it geology if it's coming from a plant.
Well, whatever.
I mean, if it's a rock coming from a plant, I'm like, that's more biology. But if it is,
fine.
Minerals, then yeah.
Okay. So, the application of our madstone also varied because why would the science have a one way to do it?
Yeah, no, that's definitely not science.
Yeah.
She says with the most sarcasm able to muster.
So most of the time it was soaked in either water, milk, or some kind of vinegar mixture. So it's soaked in something. And then it was applied directly to the wound, or sometimes it was just applied to your wrist, the inside of your wrist. Sometimes the person administrating it would rough up the skin before before applying the skin.
You've already been through an event by being bitten by something. Do you really need to be mauled some more?
Don't rough up the skin. That's terrible. Sometimes
I'm imagining like breaking in tap shoes.
Oh yeah,
the way you like scrape them against things.
Yeah, I thought of that too. Oh wow, what a specific thought we both had. I don't know.
I mean, I feel like anyone who's had any ballet and tap dance lessons, like anyone who's just done ballet, even if you never wore point shoes, you know how ballet dancers abuse the hell out of a point shoe, like a brand new shoe, just to make it start breaking it in.
Yeah.
Tap shoes, you get new shoes, you scuff the hell out of them. Yeah. That's the mental image I got. Again, empath. It hurts to think about.
You're hurting with the shoe. Yeah. Sometimes the hair of the rabid animal would be pressed against the wound. Unclear if this was like in conjunction with the madstone or like in place of, but this is how we got the term hair of the dog that bit you, because you would take the actual hair of the rabid dog and shove it into the wound, which doesn't seem like it would make it better, but many stones had allegedly a nearly 100% success rate, which we've already talked a little bit about. Why?
Because they didn't have rabies to begin with.
So Reverend Sutton, his stone had given 1,000+ successful treatments. There was a stone called the Millam Madstone of Calling County, Texas, which had a 400 not percent. Oh my gosh, I can't talk. 400+, more than 400 people were successfully treated in 47 years. It only failed twice, allegedly. A light The Lightburn stone, I don't know where that's from. It was used for over 100 years. Allegedly, it was used at least once a week with a highly successful success rate.
Who are all these people fucking with wild animals to get bit
I
so
know.
often?
I'm like, I don't know. There was a mad...
Like, if there's that many people, you expect them to be in more of a city area, but if they're in a city area, like, you're not encountering wildlife that often, so what?
Well, you're encountering rats, which are highly unlikely to have rabies. So maybe
that's it.
You're just getting bitten by rats, and you're like, that rat was acting weird.
People still falsely assume that possums have rabies.
In Call the Midwife, a baby got bitten by a rat. It was to highlight the poor conditions that the parents were living in. They also had 8 children.
I got called in for like a jury duty or something once. And sitting there in the waiting room with a whole bunch of people. And some older woman was sitting, kind of next to me, reading a newspaper. And she's like, isn't that just atrocious? Some, newborn baby's face got all chewed up because a bunch of rats got in its room.
Oh my gosh.
It had a whole bunch of bites. It didn't eat its face.
Yeah.
But he, this small infant, I guess, was living in squalor. And there was a bunch of rats just living in the house and came and
that's terrible.
Bit him. It was front page news.
Well, in Call the Midwife, this happened because people used to just leave their babies in the stroller just outside of their home for fresh air, but because these people lived in tenement housing, I don't know, the baby was just left in the hallway, and then he started screaming, and the mom ran out there. She's like, the damn rats again. It's a really sad storyline, that episode, actually.
Couldn't watch that. Couldn't watch that. I would be screaming at the television.
Okay, so there was a Madstone of Vacherie, Louisiana. Okay.
Wait, how do you spell that? Of the
Vacherie. Vacherie?
You're going to have to let me see it.
Towards the top of the page. It's underlined in red. Vacherie?
I would call it Vacherie.
Okay.
Because Cherie is spelled that way.
Okay. So
I thought you said of the sherry. And I'm like, hold on. I heard sherry. No. I was like, nope, people like to say sherry when it's cherie.
No. It's okay. It says Vacherie.
And basically means deer. Cherie is like deer.
Oh.
Like, mon cher, my dear.
I wonder if this Madstone came from a deer.
I bet it did. Not that kind of deer. Not that kind of deer.
But how funny.
It's an term of endearment.
Endearment. Oh my gosh. So this Madstone boasted 100 plus uses by 1892.
It's all a nutria.
It also claimed to have... I do not understand this one. Oh, no, sorry. I do understand this. Saving... Not the... Okay. We'll get to it. Saving a woman's arm from amputation after blood poisoning. Bringing a man back from the brink of death after a rattlesnake bite. This is the one I didn't understand, and you just tell me if I just don't understand science. Curing a man of tetanus after he was bitten by a dog. You don't get tetanus from dogs, right? You get it from rusty metal?
I mean, tetanus is a bacteria.
Okay.
Let me ask the Google real quick. You hear tetanus, you automatically think rusty nail or rusty fishhook or something. Something
rusty part of your washing machine.
But at the same time, I pick up Critter from daycare, and he'd have an incident report that some kid bit him. Mm-hmm. And, it was like, okay, well, that sucks for Critter. I'm sorry he had to experience that. Unfortunately, it's a normal part of childhood development.
Yeah.
But as long as it doesn't break the skin, it's okay. Because if you get bit by another person and it breaks the skin, you do need to go to the doctor to get a new tetanus shot.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
And so, when they're like, oh, we're so sorry, he got bit today. And I'm like, well, it didn't break the skin, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, nope, it's fine. It did leave a little mark. It's right here.
Yeah.
You can see it. I'm like, oh, yep, there's teeth marks.
Do you have to get a new tetanus shot or just make sure you're, like, have...
I think it's recommended to go ahead and get an updated one. Even if you have had one in the last 10 years, I think it's recommended, like, I mean, unless you had one within the past year.
Jarek has. Which is why I wasn't worried when he cut his hand on a can.
So, yeah, I mean, it's, yeah, if you cut your hand on, like, some rust, like, go clean it out well. And as long as you, like, keep it clean and you whatnot, you're probably okay. Mm-hmm. But I think it's always recommended if you've been bitten by another human being, or by a dog or anything really, and then it breaks the skin, it's recommended to get a tetanus shot.
Okay. Even
if you've had one in the last 10 years. I'm not a doctor. So, and I know that doctors are expensive. So if you get bitten by a person, absolutely go to the doctor.
Yeah, and maybe the police.
Yeah, definitely. 'Cause if you get bitten by another human being,
go to some authority figure.
And you need the money to pay for the medical bills, even if it turns out you're totally fine. Like, you can sue the person for biting you.
Yeah.
For the cost of the medical bills. But yeah, no, if someone bites you, it breaks the skin, you do need to update your tetanus shot.
And also, fun fact, you can just go to the pharmacy for that shit. Mm-hmm. You don't have to go to fucking urgent care like I did with Jarek. I think that's the first time we cursed today.
Oh, you have, maybe. I haven't.
Really?
Oh, I've said the F word a couple times.
Like on the podcast?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I have not.
I don't know if it's been when we've actually been talking or if it's been one of those Jarek, cut this out moments. But
I guess the mad stone's not making me real mad, so
I've got all the madness right here.
Well, on the rare occasion that a mad stone would fail.
Oh no. You mean their hoodoo didn't work?
Okay. So for example, one person was given the treatment, but they had already begun, quote, having convulsions. So they were already showing symptoms.
Too far gone.
No
amount of magic stones are going to save you from that one.
One person was bitten on the chin, and the stone wasn't able to stick to the wound because of his beard hair. So obviously it couldn't work.
Why wouldn't you just shave the beard?
I don't know. Maybe it was like Jarek and he looked really bad without a beard.
Might have been a religious thing.
Yeah, that's probably a better explanation than what I said.
Samson issue.
Sorry. Another person was bitten on the lip and, quote, swallowed the infection left by the mad dog. And therefore the stone couldn't help them. So if the stone didn't work, it wasn't the stone's fault. It was the person's fault.
It's never the stone's fault.
No. So what actually was a mad stone? Like in 2024, if you encounter a mad stone, which like they're still kept in like
there's like museums and whatnot. I'm sure.
And they're like passed down
family heirlooms.
Yeah, family heirloom. So one mad stone was found to be a fossilized piece of coral, which sounds pretty cool. Another one was a polished seed of a Kentucky coffee tree.
Polished seed means it was probably definitely eaten by an animal.
Yes.
And
yeah. And some of them were just what I have given you, an interesting looking pebble. Mm-hmm. That's technically, I got that as like a gym place.
Yeah.
But you know, like when you're just walking around and you find a cool pebble and you pick it up to give to your mom.
100%. I cannot wait for the day when I'm doing laundry and I'm like cleaning out pockets. I'm like, that's a cool rock. I'm glad you picked that one up, buddy. Yeah. I'm gonna put it back in I think I might put a jar in the laundry room.
Do it.
And just collect all that. Because I saw somebody's mom had collected like all the random stuff, whether it's like trash or lint or toy cars or, you know, random Legos or rubber bands, whatever. Basically all of the stuff that she rescued from the pockets of her kids' pants for the years that she was doing laundry. She saved it and then like put it in this basically turn it into a lamp. Like the body
so cool.
of the lamp was a clear glass. So she just filled that with all of the random crap that she'd found in her kid's pockets throughout his 18 years and gave it as like a graduation gift. I was like, that's hilarious.
I was gonna say my mom has saved. Well, she has a small little clay pot thing that I also made at some point. And she's got a bunch of rocks in it that I had, because I would just find cool looking rocks or like a heart shaped rock and I'd give it to my mom. And it's sitting on the windowsill and behind her kitchen sink. And I don't know, I'm like, doesn't everyone find cool rocks and give them to your mom? It seems.
I feel like everyone, at least, even if you don't give them to your mom, you pick them up, you're like, oh,
it's a cool rock.
Hell yeah. Yeah. That is a universally, I think. Everyone does that. Everyone picks up. I mean, not for like their entirety of their lives. I feel like at some point, you know, a lot of people do grow out of it, but not everyone does. Sometimes like, I still pick up rocks.
I was going to say, sometimes you pick up the rock and it's the last. At one point you pick up the last rock you're ever going to pick up.
That's why I keep picking them up.
Like, one day you're going to.
I don't want to go too long without picking up a rock.
One day.
Usually I pick them up, I inspect them, and then I put them back because I respect the rock.
Okay. I was going to say something that was going to make you sad. I was going to say one day you're going to pick up Critter for the last time ever. Sorry. I read that one time.
When I go home and he's all ho wah wah, ho wah wah, I'm going to say yes, I will hold Walker.
Oh gosh. That's such a terrible fact, but it's true. You're like, oh God, one day your parents pick you up for the last time ever.
Yep. There's a lot of really cool rocks by our creek. And there's a lot of really cool, like, giant chunks of quartz.
Ooh.
Those are the ones that I'll pick up, especially if, because I've got a couple that are just big, gorgeous cuts of quartz that I want to bleach because they're stained by the iron and the tannins.
You should encourage Critter to find interesting rocks and throw those in the creek.
Oh, he definitely does.
Okay.
He likes throwing the big ones.
Yeah.
Big rock.
But if you find a really interesting one, maybe hold on to it because it might
2, 3. That's his countdown. He kind of skips 1.
Oh, yeah.
It's like he says 1 in his head and he goes 2, 3. He throws.
Smart. Saves time. Why did Madstones work? Besides
the fact that the person never had rabies to begin with?
Yes. Okay. So, milk made them sticky, I guess? Like, why did they stick to the wound? Is it because if you soak a smooth stone in boiling milk, it will... I mean, I know that,
you evaporate, by boiling it, you're evaporating some of the liquid, so it gets a little thicker, and yes, there's sugar in milk, so yeah, it could be that it's sticky.
Okay. I did not find an explanation for why green scum might come to the surface, unless that's, like...
something in the
dirt?
Milk itself.
Yeah, or, like...
Or, like... what's the rock been doing? Like, if it's a porous rock...
What's the rock been doing?
If it's a porous rock, and it's just kind of been, like, maybe it's outside, maybe it's inside, either way, like, it's soaking up, water, humidity, whatnot. Yeah. It could just be some, mildew or whatever lichen that likes to grow on rocks that isn't coming out. I don't know. I've never really spent much time boiling stones before.
Maybe we should. Maybe we should make a project of boiling stones and see if we can get some green scum to come out. Although, according to the Madstone, the green scum is the poison. So we'd have to treat someone with it first and then try. It's a long process.
I'm gonna go find a really good, like, porous looking stone.
And put it in boiling milk?
And no, I'm just gonna wait until, I injure myself. The next time I have
wait till I get bitten by it.
Next time I have... No, like, even if I don't get bitten by something, I'm just going to wait until, like, I cut myself.
Okay.
Because that's a way of bacteria getting in. I'm going to go boil that in some milk. Stick it on there before I put the Neosporin on.
But make sure it sticks. Because if it doesn't stick, then it's not working.
Then I'm screwed.
Okay. And make sure it's not near your face. Because you could have
then I'm definitely screwed.
Could have just swallowed the poison. So, like you said, most people probably were just bitten by an animal that they thought was rabid that was not, because scientifically, if they had contracted the rabies virus, they would die from it. So likely stories were exaggerated to reflect the near perfect success rate, meaning that like the instances where it didn't work, where someone actually had rabies and then died of it after being treated by a medicine, they just didn't talk about those. Yeah. Like those stories didn't make the paper.
That little guy? Don't worry about that little guy.
Don't worry about him. It's fine. So I'm gonna end with a quote from author Colin Dickey. He wrote this article on Atlas Obscura that I found. There's the whole reason I found out about the Madstone. He says, quote, "A disease that transgresses the boundaries between nature and society requires an antidote that also straddles worlds." Which I thought was kind of nice. I was like, I guess that kind of makes sense. You think of rabies as like I don't know, I guess straddling the world between human and animal, and so...
Except humans are animals. Well, we are all kingdom animalia.
Whatever.
We are not that different.
As rabies will indicate. It will affect you the same, whether you are a human or an animal.
That's right.
Unless you're a Boyd. In which case it won't affect you at all, because birds are weird.
Can't trust them.
And then my last fact of the podcast is that the use of Madstones largely disappeared after 1885, when Louis Pasteur invented the vaccine.
With the introduction of actual science.
Yeah, once there was an actual vaccine, people kind of stopped using the Madstone. So that is the Madstone for you.
That's fun. I really enjoy this as a new fidget.
Isn't it nice?
Device. I want to leave it on the table, please. Okay.
I might get you a different. Can I get you a bigger one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Bigger is better.
Only because that one came from my little shrine to my past deceased pets, and I want to put it back
upset
there.
Your pets. Clearly, we have not upset your potential ancestors or somebody's ancestors. Candlesticks were both haven't moved. I haven't seen so much as a wobble.
I did see that weird thing out of the corner of my eye at one point, but I'll bring the purple stone in here. It's smooth and purple. Nice shape,
So we don't have any pictures of Madstones.
Nope, sorry.
But we do have pictures of other things occasionally, and if you want to see those pictures, you can check out our Facebook or Instagram at The Tales We Tell Podcast. If you want to see pictures from other episodes, you can check out but you don't do the social media, check out our website, thetaleswetellpodcast.com. And if you want to support us and get yourself some sweet, sweet swag, I got some compliments on my Murder Cabin sweater this weekend.
Nice.
You can go to our Redbubble store, search The Tales We Tell Podcast. We've got a couple of different logo designs, and you can put that shit on anything. And if you want to support us, but you don't need the stuff except, I don't know, early access, commercial-free listening, sometimes some fun bonus content, Christmas cards, love notes, random stickers, become patrons at patreon.com. Search The Tales